Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Thomas Bergvik joining us here today once again. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good.
Good. Great to see you. Please introduce yourself to our listeners.
My name is Thomas Bergvik. I'm a licensed professional counselor practicing in Hampton, Connecticut. I've been in business going on 11 years. As I tell people all the time, it's the best job I've ever had.
Oh, fantastic. Well, of course it is. Tell us, you're based out of Connecticut, correct?
Correct.
Great. And you work with, a lot of couples, a lot of individuals.
I work with couples. I work individually with clients who are experiencing anxiety, depression, pornography issues, addiction issues of all sorts, anger management. Those are the ones that I really I see the most. Basically my clients tell me that for the most part that they really appreciate my effort and my ability to be able to help them deal with whatever they're able to deal with. So.
And for today's topic for the show, did you have anything in mind? I know last week we took callers.
And I like that, because sometimes people want to talk about something that's not related to the topic I'm talking about. And so I thought, well, at least we got one caller in next week, and I'm hoping maybe we can get more. And whatever it is that's on your mind, I'm willing to talk about it and maybe help you. And so I'm just hoping that people will call in, because I enjoy being able to interact with people and see what's on their minds.
Good. And anything in particular this week that you've worked on, as far as with clients, anything in particular that's sticking out in your mind?
Well, I mean, a lot of relationship issues. And it can be, complex. A lot of it has to do with communication issues and trying to help clients be able to communicate in a way that's going to be helpful to both of them. One of the things I try to help people do is try to work on being empathetic towards one another. Try to see issues from each other's point of view. I think sometimes that helps in terms of cutting down the irritability that can happen between couples. And I also mentioned the fact that when people are talking about their issues, that if they find that their anger is up there, that they need to take a break. And but establish a time when they can get back to this so that the issue is not forgotten about. Because sometimes that taking a break can be looked at as being avoiding the issue.
Mm-hmm.
I look at when people are upset with each other. If they're upset, I mean, it's like they're just preparing what their response is going to be to the other person's response.
True.
And it's like a tug of war going on. And I say you might as well be talking to the wall, because you're going to be basically getting the similar results.
Yeah.
Anyway, and the thing is, as you can probably guess, relationship counseling is a challenge.
It is, I'm sure. Yeah.
I got a story for you.
Sure, I'm listening. And it's going to work.
I saw a client last night. Last time I saw him was with his wife 7 years ago.
What? 7?
7. And anyway, he came in. He's got his own business, been in business for over 30 years, and he is burned out.
Wow.
Family issues going on, and he really just wants to be able to sell the business with the interfamily squabbles. In any case, he just found out.
Wow.
Because my son-in-law told me this, that he knows my son-in-law, and it was like his eyes opened up. And when I told him who it was, and he said, "And your daughter?" And he mentioned my daughter's name. And I said, yeah. And he never knew that. And the funny thing is they've known my daughter and my son-in-law for the last 3-4 years because their daughter plays soccer with my granddaughter, my
wow.
granddaughter. And so my client's wife calls my daughter and says, I just need to tell you something. Just blew my mind about them knowing me. And apparently they've been referring a lot of people to me. And she said that I saved their marriage when I saw them.
Wow, that is impressive. That's pretty amazing.
That made my nights.
Aw.
So yeah, that was incredible. So, and I was able to find their chart. I mean, actually, technically, I could have shredded the chart because of 7 years. You know, after 7 years, you can
You're
shred.
supposed to, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that was something else.
Helping
Like I
couples
said,
out.
you like to hear that. You know, it's like you don't get that kind of feedback, and especially with them referring people to me. That just, I mean, it speaks volumes in and of itself.
Now, I mean, clearly something like that. What other proudest achievements do you have in your field? You know, is there any other stories that I'm sure you've helped, save
I've
a lot
got
of marriages, but you got one in particular?
I've got one that actually goes back before I became a therapist. This sort of like encapsulates why I made the right decision. I used to work in Hartford for the Sisters of Mercy. And I had a client who was assigned to me. He was a tall black guy who had the incredible, I mean, his family, his background was awful. He just went through hell in a handbasket. He had a stepfather who was abusive. His mother died in a fire. He was homeless. He'd gone to a facility for the juvenile delinquents in Connecticut. He had substance abuse issues with drugs and alcohol. And on top of that, he had a diagnosis of schizophrenia. I mean, it was like somebody just threw this kitchen sink at him. And so first time he met me, he said to me, "You're white. What are you going to do for me?" It's like, and I smiled and I said, "Well, you're right about that. There isn't much I can do about that, but let's give it some time and see where it goes." And so he said to me, he said the first thing he says, "I'm willing to go through detox if I have to, but I don't want to go through treatment." Okay. So, I mean, I needed to establish a relationship with him, and I wasn't going to have a tug of war with him from day one, because that isn't how you establish a relationship. So I just work with him. I, try to help him maintain medication compliance, because it's important for him to get his medications every day. And we started getting he started to believe in me. And one day I told him, I said, "I'm going to believe in you until you're ready to believe in yourself."
Mm-hmm.
And I almost got him to go to an AA meeting one day. I was all ready to go with him, and he didn't. But that, Rome wasn't built in a day. So one weekend, come to find out, he had a bad habit of carrying a kitchen knife in his back pocket for protection, as he put it. And I said, "I don't think that's a good idea."
No.
Well, he gets into an argument with his girlfriend, and in the process stabbed her, but thank God it was only superficial, but it was enough to get him to jail for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
I get a long letter from him one day, and he said, "Tom, I've been thinking a lot about what you've been telling me. I've been going to AA meetings and jail." And he said, "I promise you, when I get out, I'm going to go into treatment." Well, Red Fox, it was like, here I come. He could have knocked me over with a feather. And I said, "Holy cow, never thought I'd see this day." Well, sure, true to his word, as soon as he got out, he went in treatment. He did great. And then he was in intensive outpatient treatment, IOP. He did great there. And they had, in the meantime, they decided to discontinue the program I was working in Mercy Housing. And so I thought about it and I said, I really wasn't interested in working in the new program that they had.
Mhm.
So I was there for 8.5 years. So I thought it was a good time for me to go. And especially since my entire caseload, 7 people, were all at their highest level of functioning. That's unheard of. And have it all happen at once. I mean, it was like a miracle. And so I used to be a chauffeur. And so I had this Sweet 15 gig that happened to be, the church services were going to be at the church right next door to the shelter that I worked out of. And so I thought I'd go over there while they had this church services going, and I would say hello to the staff. Well, guess who was there?
Ta-da.
He says, "Hey, Tom, how you doing?" I said, "How you doing?" He says, "I'm doing great." He says, "I just wanted to let you know, I know when I ever feel like I'm going to get into trouble, I know just where to go. I don't
Wow.
disappoint you, Tom." I'm thinking, how is he going to disappoint me?
Wow.
That's where his mindset was at. He had never been sober for more than 6 months before I worked with him. He was clean and sober for 2 years at that point.
Wow.
It's all in the relationship. It's all about chemistry.
Mhm.
Client I see, if they stay with me, it's because they believe in what I'm trying to help them do. And that's said everything to me. It was like definitely what I want, my planning on going into and becoming a counselor was just something it's been destined for me to do. It's something I had thought about a lot in terms of my retirement plan, and there you go.
Wow. Wow. That is impressive.
Yeah.
Got to feel good of the work you've done.
Oh yeah.
People you've helped, for sure.
And it's always, I mean, I've had clients tell me, I had one client not too long ago, he was raving about the reviews that he read about me.
Oh, that is sweet.
Yeah. I'm pretty, I don't brag. I mean, I feel like, you start resting on your laurels, you're going to get burned, sort of.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've got to prove myself every day. And so, but when clients really feel like you're really helping them,
Got my
nothing
water.
can be said.
Mhm.
So,
Now, this, pandemic came and hit. Drug, alcohol use, has that gone up, on the rise? I'm
yes,
assuming
alcohol abuse, it's done a number
Mhm.
of relationships. The more I hear about how kids have been affected, the more concerned I am. And I'm hearing stories now about when at the peak of the pandemic, kids are, the real small kids, the ones that are babies, have been delayed in terms of their being able to speak. And so, because they're not around other kids like they normally would be. We've been affected in so many different ways, it's hard to count them all. And I talk about relationships, a lot of couples have been forced to work from home. And if they're both at home, that means they're basically together all day long. That can create a lot of tension in the house, especially if they have kids, because a lot of the kids they were learning from home as well, and the kids were missing their friends because of this pandemic.
Mhm.
Learning virtually, and it's not like in college. In college, we're much more adaptable to being able to make that transition. In high school and below, we're not, because
Mhm.
If you think about it, especially high school, it's it's a foundational time of your life. And you start you learn about dating, about your, how others people look at you and feel about you and so forth and so on. And then once you move into college, you feel like you're starting to feel like you get an idea of who you are as a person. And when you don't have that, and then not to mention proms that are not being held, sport, any athletes that weren't able to play their sports that like they normally would because of the restrictions, because that was caused by COVID.
Mhm.
I mean, we can go up and down the line and talk about this, and all of it was a definite challenge for these kids to get through. They're not gonna forget about this the rest of their lives.
Mhm. Yeah, my kids don't know what it's like. What's like they're in, kindergarten and pre-K. I'm sorry, first grade, but they've worn masks this whole time. They finally are off, and I'll never forget. We went back to not having to wear masks. My son still wore it for a week. He wanted to, and I'm like, wow. All right, over
Right.
it now, but they're always going to remember that and be scarred from it.
Of
Yeah.
course,
Mhm.
because we have gotten to a point where, we may be vaccinated 6 ways a Sunday, but it doesn't mean the person next to us is.
Mhm.
The thing about not wearing a mask on a plane.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. If I'm on a plane, I'm wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Because I can't trust who's next to me.
True.
And if I ask them, I don't know what kind of response I'm going to get.
Mhm.
So better to be safe than sorry. My wife and I were talking about this yesterday, with all of a sudden now, nobody's talking about the flu.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna take my flu shot. I'm like, no, thanks. Like, yeah, you're right.
And the irony and the good thing about wearing the mask was people we weren't getting the flu. They're
Mhm.
concerned about the virus for good reason. When I have a really good friend of mine who I used to play basketball with, and he works in New York as a bus driver, and he got COVID. And this is when it first started. And he told me it's just awful to listen to his story. And he can do a better job than I can. But he told
Mhm.
me that he was so sick, his lungs got filled up. He's a black.
Ah,
They had him over the side of the bed, basically pounding on him to cough up the fluid that had built up into his lungs. His feet got dark black. They didn't have any circulation. They had to have him rubbed to get this circulation
ah,
going, or he could have lost a limb.
ah.
It was a battle. He was in the hospital for a month and a half. And this is a guy, he's a relatively young guy. It's like maybe late 40s, early 50s. He was in good shape.
Mhm.
And just to hear about that, it was like, it made me emotional, I'll tell you. It was just, the problem with COVID is that for a lot of people, there's residual effects that happen that are around for long after they've actually recovered from the initial infection. This is not to joke around about, and unfortunately, a lot of people come out the hard way.
Oh, what a trying time. Dear, it just everything was so. I just remember the trailers of bodies, and nobody knew how to handle it. The doctors, the staff, and it was like, and now we have it contained a little better. Obviously, we have treatments. It was just the scariest thing ever in our lives, and I keep thinking about that. That's never thought we would live through anything like that in our day, right? 2020, 2021 and 22.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
And almost exactly 100 years after the Spanish flu.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I remember reading about that, and I'm thinking, oh my God. I was like, I mean, I could feel it was like my eyes were wide open. You could just imagine what it must have been like at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And all you can say is, I hope to God we never run into that. But as you know, I mean, pandemics are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a question of if, but when.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of being prepared for it. And you can't have an attitude that no, it won't happen, because that's denial.
Yeah.
Let's look at the bubonic plague. I don't think it's the same thing. The Black Plague. In history, I mean, just what they went through, and a lot of it like rats. I mean, there used to be a time when our sanitation system was left a lot to be desired.
Mm-hmm.
And in New York back in the day, there was a lot of excrement all over the place because of horses. That wasn't really healthy. So, we've been through a lot, and just hope that we can overcome a lot of the other challenges that we're facing, not the least of which is the environment.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, we are almost out of time. I know we got a late start with some technical issues. If someone does want to reach out to you, work with you, explain the process, how it works, please.
Sure. I can be reached by phone 203-917-7674. My email is tabergvik@gmail.com. You can also find me on bergvikcounselingservices.com. And you can look at my website, just looking at Bergvik Counseling Services, and you find me on the internet. So it's been fun. I really enjoy.
As always. Thank you. Thank you so much. Maybe I could use you as my therapist. We'll do a whole session on Jill and her problems. Hey, we
No
all
problem.
have them. We all have them. Really. Thank you so much, Thomas Berger, for checking in, for being here today. I'm looking forward to the next time we speak. I hope you have a fantastic weekend as well.
Yeah, you too.
Hoping the weather stays nice, right? Today's a beautiful
Absolutely.
day out there. I didn't even check the forecast though. Is it going to be a good weekend for us in the Northeast?
It's supposed to be I think it's supposed to be a pretty good weekend, but we'll see. I didn't check for the weekend either. So.
All right, good. Well, let's enjoy today. Have a
All
great
right.
day, sweetheart. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you can now listen live on the MyTuner Radio and online Radio Box apps for iOS, Android, and the Amazon App Store. Or check us out online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on onlineradiobox.com/US so you don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.